Hey guys, good morning. It is Monday, January 20th, 2020, that is. It is 7:21 a.m. in the morning. And yes, I do have to work today, and happy Martin Luther King Day to all of you out there that are celebrating his legacy, and will be doing what you can to continue celebrating that legacy and continuing it with a lot of the marches and demonstrations that you have planned for today. Anyway, so with that said, we have a variety of topics to talk about today before I get ready to hop into the bathroom and get myself ready for work. 4 topics, as a matter of fact. The first topic, of course, is yesterday's Super Bowl 54 is now set. We will be talking about that as well, ladies and gentlemen, as we will be talking about some other stuff. At the same time, I should say, we'll be talking about some other stuff. At the same time, and that was my dog right there. If you hear her, she just woke up from sleeping a little bit. She's gonna go back to sleep in a moment. But yeah, here to talk about some topics on my mind on this day that I am all hoping, like I say, you guys will be enjoying in your own way and celebrating the legacy of Martin Luther King and what he's done. And what he has done to bring us all together in the past and up to today. I know it didn't sound kind of sound a little gibberish there or ramble-ish. I do apologize, but again, happy Martin Luther King Day, and hope you guys have a great day no matter where you are, celebrating his legacy. By coming together through demonstrations and march and continuing to live the dream he set out for all of us to live when he was amongst us back almost, over 50 years ago. 50 years ago, it's hard to believe. But we all know he's watching from above, smiling down, knowing that no matter what goes on in this world right now, there are people that are still trying to keep his dream and his legacy alive. So anyway, with that said, with that said, and I should say, let's talk about some of the topics on my mind here. Again, there are 4 topics. We're going to get through as quickly as we can. Like I said, the first topic is the Super Bowl, of course, Super Bowl 54. The next topic will be, believe it or not, from a fan's perspective, point of view. And this would basically be a bit of a reply. And that is the ages. What are the ages of the main what are the ages? The second topic basically will be, from a fan's point of view, what are the ages of the main 7/8 in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic? Last year, somebody did a video on that where they talked about the ages and possibly how old each of the main 7, main 8, if you will, could possibly be, and how it related to spike and rarity. And I'll touch upon that too when we talk about it, because that is something that a lot of folks have, if you're a fan of the show, have talked about and kind of looked at it like, yeah, it's nice, it's cute, but it's just not something they would really, get into. But anyway, I'll really want to support. But anyway, yeah, that's what's happening. If I can just get this thing on Facebook going, hold on. Yeah, but that's the second topic, basically talking about from a fan's point of view, what the ages of the main 7/8 could potentially be, as well as the third topic will be, because I just experienced this morning. It woke both me and my mom up. Of course, my mom is off today because it's Martin Luther King Day, and her job celebrates his legacy, along with a lot of schools that are doing the same thing by letting the kids out, and the teachers out to have not only a day off to relax and recharge the batteries, but to go out and, like I said, do what they can to continue the legacy of Martin Luther King and celebrate his legacy and continue his dream aim to the best of their abilities. So it woke both me and her up. It happened several times this morning until I finally, to my mom's request, because my mom asked me to, went on to my cable provider's website, who is also our phone provider, and blocked these calls. I don't know who's calling us between 4 and 6:30 a.m. in the morning. I looked it up, and apparently it is some surveys. Some surveys are being done. I don't know why. One was a Bob Seymour and all that. So it's like it's really weird, what's going on here. And then one was like an MEMSIC package, but then I thought, what did it have to do with the package I'm getting? And no, it was actually surveys. So I don't know what's going on. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. And finally, we're going to talk about, and maybe I should have done it the second one, but I think I can close it out with this one. Hold on for a second. Sorry about that. Just gonna adjust things here for a second. Gonna adjust things. There we go. Sorry about that. Alarm went off there. But that does tie into what I was saying, because I had my alarm set for 7:30, so I can get up at this time as well. But because the phone, and they decided to do this, that's going to be one of the that's basically why I've chosen it to be a third topic, because it's just recently happened. I'm just adjusting the mic here, making sure everything's adjusted. But yeah, it just happened this morning, and it's like, come on, seriously. Yeah, I will watch the movie, Lord Thomas Decree. I will. It's just it's all going to depend on when I do it. I know it comes out on Valentine's Day, so we'll see what happens there. Because I know one thing, my brother-in-laws and my sisters and the husbands, I should say, are going to probably go out. It's on the weekend, so we'll probably have the kids. Maybe, I'm not really sure yet. But anyway, like I said, that third topic, definitely going to talk about, because it's something that I think needs to seriously be worked on. And then the final topic is an interesting one. Throughout, ever since I've been back here in California, which has been now almost 12 and a half years, going on 13 this year, there's always been a part of me that's, and it kind of relates to the Super Bowl, but it's always been a part of me that still is a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. But I've always been a diehard, longtime, born and bred San Francisco fan. But there's also a part of me that enjoyed the Raiders when they were in Oakland, and heck, even when they were part of Los Angeles for a while. There was a part of me that liked the Raiders and was happy the fact that they came back. There was a part of me that liked the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Rams when the Rams were in St. Louis. Part of me became a fan of St. Louis Cardinals. Part of me became fan, even though I became a fan of those teams, I also stayed a diehard Oakland A's, Athletic, Golden State Warriors, Sacramento Kings fan as long as I could. So basically, we're going to talk about region setting and how it relates to being a sports fan. So anyway, with that all said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to a first topic, which is, of course, the Super Bowl. Yes, Super Bowl 54 was determined yesterday. And in my honest opinion, I've talked about this many times, but in my honest opinion, Super Bowl 54, especially the playoffs that got to this moment, the divisional and then the conference championships yesterday, felt, and I'm not saying this with any disrespect or anything, but they felt more legit. They felt more real. It felt like these teams really earned it and didn't have no favoritism shown to them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people that saw the games throughout this tournament saw the referees making calls and missing calls or letting teams get away with calls that should have been called or shouldn't have been called, and it got fans worried. And I understand that. Now, some might now there are obviously conspiracists out there, NFL hardcore fan conspiracists and theorists that believe that the only reason the Niners, that's right, the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs got to the Super Bowl is because they were given it an easy road. In other words, basically, some conspiracists and theorists will look at, the teams that Kansas City played, the teams that San Francisco played, and will probably think, yeah, the only reason these teams got as far as they did is because the NFL wanted this matchup. And that could be true. I'm not saying it isn't. But here's the thing. It's happening. It is happening. But yeah, there are going to be conspiracists out there. There are going to be people that believe the game, that will believe, I should say, that there's something behind the Chiefs and the 49ers getting into the Super Bowl as quickly as they did. Now, with that said, though, am I happy that they're in there? Yes, I'm happy both teams are in there. And here's what's interesting. This year in October, later on this year, basically 9 months from now. 9 months from now, I know it's a long time, but time goes. But if last year is any indication, in this month so far is any indication, time goes by fast. But like I was saying, later on, 9 months from now, in October of this year, will mark 6 years since the 2014 World Series. The 2014 World Series, ladies and gentlemen, had something very interesting that was close to me. Had a matchup that was close to me. That was the Kansas City Royals and the San Francisco Giants. And what's funny is this World Series, and it's have a little bit of itchies here, with the just scratching my chin, have a bit of the itches, if you will. But like I said, what's funny though is it wasn't even 7 years since I got back, and all of a sudden this matchup happened. And now it's not even 6 years since that matchup. Now we're getting this one. So when you think about it, for me, I came back in 2007. It's going to be 13 years for me. This November. 13 years. And in those 13 years, I've gotten and will be getting a matchup between two teams that I grew up on as a fan. Now, I was more A's than Giants, but of course, them being Bay Area, if one team doesn't go, you cheer for the other. And the same with Kansas City. if Kansas City and St. Louis. If Kansas City doesn't go, St. Louis does. You cheer for St. Louis. And I was out there when St. Louis became the world champions, and everybody in Lawrence, where I lived, was celebrating. I would walk by the Unu Chicago, which was right, you know, right across the street, but just, you go out the back of our apartment. There's a little hole in the fence. You go through the hole in the fence, and the Unu Chicago is like right there, like right next door, in the corner. And they had that place packed. And I think I've been in there maybe once or twice, but they had it packed. Anyway, though, the reason I say this is interesting for me because I support both teams. Yes, I grew up a diehard 49er fan, no doubt about that. But when I lived in Kansas, I became a Chiefs fan too. I mean, my dad, yes, was a Chiefs fan even when he was out here for a while. But I am but I became a fan of the Chiefs when I was out there, and even though I never went to a game, which is true, I never went to a game. The fact of the matter is this: I got a lot of respect for them, but here's the big thing. Okay, here's the big thing. I got a lot of respect for them, but whenever the Chiefs were scheduled to face the 49ers in regular season or preseason, I'm all for 49ers. And that's how I'm probably going to be this time. I mean, yeah, I could wear my 49er cap and my Chiefs t-shirt and be done with it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not. What I'm going to do is wait and see what happens. Because right now, it looks like me and my mom are going to be celebrating the Super Bowl here, unless something comes up. Unless my oldest sister, not my oldest sister, but my second oldest sister calls up and plans something out. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see what occurs. But yes, the Super Bowl is set for February 2nd. Kansas City and San Francisco. Of course, the last time San Francisco went was around 2012. Unfortunately, that didn't turn out well for them against Baltimore. Could things change this year? Who knows? You got a great quarterback matchup between Jimmy Garoppolo and Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be great. It's going to be really great. And storyline-wise, they're playing up the fact that, Kyle Shanahan is making history because he and his father are the first father-son duo to ever be head coaches in a Super Bowl. And on the other side, they're playing up that Andy Reid has beaten every team just about, no matter where he's coached. And now he has a chance to beat the Niners again, but this time for the Vince Lombardi Trophy. So it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be a good game. And one thing I will say, because I know a lot of 49er fans, fellow 49er fans, kind of fear this. If you watch the Chiefs game, the last two ones, it's like they let their opponents get the lead a little bit, and then all of a sudden they turn it on. It's like, boom. And I think the commentator said it best. It's like Mahomes reads what they're doing. It's like they allow this to happen so Patrick Mahomes can read what they're planning and be like, okay, now I get it. And the same goes for the defense. They're like reading, okay, this is what they're planning. Okay, now we get it. It's more like luring the opponent into a false sense of security. That's what it is. And I know fans of the Niners are worried about that too, but I don't think that's going to happen because I think both teams have a similar strategy. And, honestly, this is going to probably be the most watched Super Bowl in a long time. It is. It is, and I say that with all due respect because you can't. And I say this, I should say, with all due respect, you can't tell me that people are not sick and tired of always seeing New England in there. I mean, New England's a good team, but with the controversy that follows them, especially this season, it's like, yeah, we need a break. And if it isn't, New England, it's somebody else. It's either Green Bay, it's either Seattle, you know, what have you. It's like to them, it's like it's either Green Bay, it's Seattle, it could be Los Angeles, to them, it's like, we need a break. We need something more new and fresh. And the thing is, when you look at the timeline for both teams, 49ers have not been there in 7 years. Chiefs have not been there in half a century. And that's another thing they're playing up too, is the fact that the Chiefs have not been there in half a century. So it's going to be really, really interesting. And hold on while I check something here, guys, because my thing's doing the load. My my loading LED light's doing the load deal. Check something here real quickly. Oh, yeah, it's an update deal. Anyway, though, like I said, they're playing up both those storylines more so right now with the Chiefs because it's been 50 years. So you would think, oh, they're playing up that storyline. Then there's no doubt Chiefs are going to win. We don't know that yet. All I know is we're going to get a good game. I'm going to have my DVD set. I'm going to have my DVR set. Everything is set for this game. Period. Everything is set for this game. Now, do I think it's going to be close? Absolutely, because both teams are going to want it. Here's the thing. When you play up years in historical fact, yes, it's been over a quarter of a century since the Chiefs were at the Super Bowl. And the last time they were there, they won it. Last time the Niners were there, they lost. But the last time they brought home the Vince Lombardi Trophy was in 1995. So you're looking at half a century and a quarter of a century, 75 years combined between both teams. When you think about it, 75 years combined between both teams. Or, how do I put it? 75 years combined. What is it? 40. No, 40. 54. Yeah, 25-year difference. So 75 and 25-year difference. 75 years combined since they both have had the trophy, and it's a 25-year difference since one has had the trophy over the other. So it's going to be really intriguing. Both teams are going to want it. But the question is, where does the ball sway? Where does the ball sway to? Like, basically, who's going to have the momentum? Who's going to have the heart? Who's going to want it the most? And I think both teams are going to come out in Miami and show that they both want it, but who wants it more than the other? Because when you take a look at the quarterbacks as well, you look at someone like Mahomes, and they're building him up to be like the next Tom Brady of the NFL. And then you take a look at Johnny Garoppolo, who was a backup for Tom Brady in New England, and they're building him up as to being like the successor. In other words, being like a Steve Young who's going to rip that monkey off his back should the Niners prevail. So you're going to have you got a lot of storytelling going on here. You got a lot of good matchups going on here. And all I could say is all I'm going to say is this. honest to God, want the Niners to win because we haven't had it in 25 years, but I can understand Kansas City won it the most because they haven't had it in half a century. So, got a good game ahead of us, and that's all I'm going to really say, guys. So, got 2 weeks to wait and prepare. Let's see, when it comes down to it, who wants it the most. And you know what's funny? This is going to make my job scheduling a little bit more interesting, maybe. We'll see. But it comes down to who wants it the most. Now, next up, and I'm going to post this over at some of the group pages. But next up, let's talk about My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Now, a couple of days ago, I was watching a video. And this video was done by somebody that actually did it about a year ago. He actually did this video a year ago. And that's a neighbor's dog in the background. But like I said, this video was done about a year ago. And it was talking about spike and rarity. Yes, spike and rarity. Basically, would sparity work? It was a subject that was brought on by an individual. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to see if I can look up the history on it real quickly. Hold on, guys. But it was brought up by an individual as a theorist. Now, the guy's known. Now, here's the one thing about the MLP fandom, especially Friendship is Magic and the Equestria Girls. There's always been theories. The one thing this show has done is allowed fans, or the franchise overall has done, is allow fans to think about and theorize, possibilities, like, what potentially could be, what potentially could be, stuff like that. Like, oh, there's implications that this could have happened, or there's a lot of clues and hints and Easter eggs that happened. And by having those, fans are allowed to, as I said, speculate what's on their mind. You know what I'm saying? They're allowed to speculate and theorize, what potentially could have been or not could have been. Anyway, I'm looking up where this fan is. Hold on. Looking up right now. But this fan, like I said, did this video about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And he talked about the situation. If I'm trying to find where that fan's at. I know he's around here somewhere. I know I saw it. Hold on. Sorry about this, guys. But anyway, this fan, like I said, did this video. Let me just look it up. Oh, there it is. Okay. It was by Dagger Yenner. Dagger Yenner. Um, and he did this video about a year ago. And he talked about, and he did this, like I said, did this about a year ago. And the reason he did this is because it was part of a crazy, it was basically part of a conspiracy, MLP conspiracy, as they put it, or theorizing. And he brought up, and even though he didn't really want to do it at first, he pretty much was put into a corner. So he basically, through the help of his partners, was able to kind of come up with an idea of how it potentially could work, because it did sound like at the end of the video that yes, if things worked out the way they did, or if these, or if what he theorized, you know, came to be. Like I say, if what he theorized is true, and this was over a year ago, and this was before season 9. Keep that in mind. This was before the final season. He theorized, and he theorized about the fact that, yeah, spike and rarity could work. Now, he didn't straight out say that, but pretty much at the end, he kind of implied that if what his theory was about the ages, and that's what I want to try to get at here, is true, then yes, it could. He basically looked at a lot of different scenarios, and you could find his video. It's called MLP Conspiracy. Can spike and rarity work? You can find MLP Conspiracy. Can spike and rarity work on YouTube? Just type in MLP Conspiracy. Can spike and rarity work? And also look up Dagger Yenner. That's Dagayemar, or Dagger Yemmer. Dagger Yemmer. That's Dagayemar. Look him up. As well as, like I said, just look it up. MLP Conspiracy, Can Spike and Rarity Work? On YouTube. You should find it. And here's the thing. And again, here's the thing. He, like I said, he went through a lot of different scenarios. And mostly the scenario he went through, like I said, was the ages. And the way he did the ages, I'm sorry if I'm taking long to get to it, but the reason he went to the ages is because he went through different scenarios, different moments in time, as to try to figure out not only the ages of the main six, but to, hold on for a second. Sorry about that, guys. Our gardener just came to do the lawn, to mow the lawn. So, anyway, though, like I said, anyway, like I was saying, basically, he did, he looked through all those different events throughout time, and make sure everything's adjusted there, right? Okay. Well, like I said, he looked through all kinds of different moments and scenarios throughout time, and he basically um, went with that to not only determine the ages of the main six, but how it relates to Spike. And basically, he determined that the oldest out of the main six were Applejack, Rarity, and Fluttershy, because there's one moment he went by, I think, in the episode where we first meet Gilda the Griffin, where basically Fluttershy tells Pinky, "I'm a year older than you." So take that for what you will. And he also went and used the various Hearthstone Eves they would have and other events, and even when they got the cutie marks, and basically determined that, like I said, Rarity, Applejack, and Fluttershy were about between 5 and 6, and at Twilight, Pinky, and Rainbow between 4 and 5. So basically a year apart. Now you might say, well, how does that relate to Spike? Well, he looked at when Twilight hatched him, which was in Magic Kindergarten, her entry into Magic Kindergarten. And not only did he use that to kind of help out, but then he looked at the first season he's in and then onward, and came to the determination that Spike, as of that season, or before his molt down, if you will, his getting his wings, if you will, that Spike potentially could be between the age of, 14 and 16. But then he also went by what Smolder had said. He went by what she said, and about dragons having to leave the nest once they go through after they go through the molt and all that. So he basically said that after the molt, Spike jumped basically from 14 to 16 to 17, 18, which right now going into that final season, because remember this took place, he did this video before the final season, that going into it, Spike would be about 20 to 23 or 18 to 20 years old. In other words, Spike would be appropriate age. He also threw in the whole, dragons age slower, stuff like that. And he also put in he also added in a lot of the scenarios where Spike showed that even though he's small for his size, then not only do dragons come in various sizes depending on the maturity and all that, but that he has shown maturity. That he could still show some childlike qualities, but as time went on, he became more mature, he became more developed, stuff like that. So stuff like that. So it's a very interesting video. Like I said, just look it up. It's called MLP Conspiracy: Would Spike and Rarity Work? Or Could Spike? I think it's called a MLP Conspiracy: Can Spike and Rarity Work? Look it up on YouTube. You can even Google it. It'll take you right to it. It's an interesting video and really worth your time watching. I mean, when he gets into the analytics, the numbers and all that, that may seem a little like boring, but honestly, it's worth the wait in the end. Trust me on that. It's worth it. But going on to that, I'll kind of replying to that, if you will, here. Basically, when the way I look at it, I totally see where he's coming from. I totally see where this theory and conspiracy is coming from. And I could definitely see a spike in rarity working out. I could. Because a lot of conspiracists and theorists of any kind of show will find reasons for yay and nay to happen. And in the case of spike and rarity, real life situation, love knows no boundaries, and age is but a number. So yeah. So yeah, he definitely, again, even though he didn't straight out say it, he definitely feels that spike and rarity potentially could work because of the fact that as of right now, Spike's at the right age to be with her. End of discussion. So again, check the video out. I think you guys will like it. So anyway, did I just put that in the? I think I did. Yeah. Let me make sure again. Just oops, I don't want to do that. Just making sure I added this to someplace. But yeah, basically, it's more along the lines of, you know, he goes by basically, how do I put this? He's going by realisticness. Now the other things he talked about was if potentially could happen. He also talked about what if they had a kid. And this is the one thing I'm pretty sure a lot of fans won't like hearing. You see, when he said when he came up to that discussion, he looked at it from a more, I guess you could say, logical, realistic perspective. That there's no way that if Spike and Rarity got together and they had a kid, it would be what we've seen in drawn by fans in the MLP style with those vectors and all that, being a half pony, half dragon hybrid. That it would only have to be one species and that's it. And he used various moments like the birth of the Cake Twins. He used Flurry Heart as an example, basically saying there's reasons for it, genealogical reasons, geological reasons, genealogical reasons that would explain why one of the Cake Twins is a unicorn and why Flurry Heart's an alicorn at birth. So anyway, long story short, I again getting back to what I was saying, I can honestly definitely see where he's coming from, and again, I would recommend you guys check it out because I think even after you see it, you might agree as well that yeah, it does make sense. Again, not a lot of people are going to agree with Spike and Rarity being an item, but in the end, sometimes it takes a video like this, even if it's a year old, to kind of explain perhaps that, yeah, they could potentially get together. And, there's nothing wrong with that. And again, that's our gardener in the backyard now. But again, there's nothing wrong with that. So, like I said, check out the video. I think you guys will like it. It's worth watching. It really is. Again, when he gets into the age and the numbers brackets and all that, that may be a little boring to some people, but just be patient with it. It's worth the watch. It really is. All right. So next up. So next up, let's talk about annoying calls. In other words, what's known as robocalls or survey calls or whatever you want to call them. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, basically, get right down to it, Good. Let's let's talk about this. You see, this morning around between 4 and 6:30, my mom and I got a phone call, various phone calls from the 408 area code. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I looked them up, and two of them were basically, and one of them said surveys, because they did have something that said MISMIC or something like that, MEMSIC, on it. I looked it up. It said package. I thought, could it be have to do with the packages I'm coming my way? No. This had to do with survey calling. And then before that, and that was like the second time. We got one before that. And then after that, a few moments later, or 15, 20 minutes later, we got another one. And that was also from 408. And this one said Bob Seymour. And after that, we got another one. So what I had to do, because my mom asked me to do it, I went to Xfinity's homepage, went to the account, went to voice, and went to where it allows us to block calls, and took all the numbers, put them in the areas where basically I took all the numbers, typed them all in, and basically confirmed for these numbers to be blocked. Because honestly, I'm getting sick and tired of them, and so is my mom. And I'm thinking, why are people calling today? I mean, I understand it, and it's a holiday, but you don't take advantage of a holiday, that pays tribute to a man, and who wants to see a dream of everybody being together in peace, in harmony, no matter what their race or ethic. You don't use a holiday paying tribute to a guy like that for your own means. You don't do that. Now, my family, my mom obviously felt that they could be off schedule. But that probably is true. It's probably true. Maybe it's off schedule. We don't know. But the fact of the matter is, this is something that, honestly, it does not need to be, being honest with you guys, it does not need to be around. No, and it needs to stop. It really does. I thought there was laws being passed that said they could no longer have robocalls be made. Guess somebody didn't get the memo, did they? Because that's exactly what happened here. We ended up getting calls, and I'm getting tired of it. So is my family, my mom, everybody. Everybody's getting tired of it. So I honestly don't. Um, I honestly, what I'm trying to say is, don't under. I just don't understand why they have to keep doing it. That's the thing. It has to. I think they just have to stop. Is what it is. I think they just have to stop, and that's the honest truth. We can't. Uh, like I said, we can't just I'm trying to think real quickly. We can't allow this to keep happening, because people do not need to be woken up at night, in the middle of the night or in the early mornings, just because people automatically behind the scenes program the telemarketers or the robocallers to call at certain times. It needs to stop. And again, and mostly it needs to stop on holidays, where people that have days off want to have that day off in peace. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it. So I'm just, it just frustrates me. It's what it does. It just really frustrates me. You know, so I'm just hoping. How do I put? I'm just hoping basically that this kind of stuff stops. That they put a stop to it. Because honestly, again, you don't take advantage of holiday paying tribute to someone who wants to see people come together no matter what their race or ethic is. You don't use a holiday like that of any kind to call early in the morning. Now, what's funny is some of these area codes were from the San Jose, Santa Clara area, Santa Clara County, that is. So I don't know if maybe it's just people that are drunk, kids that are trolling. I don't know, but it needs to stop because the last thing people need to do is be woken up in the early parts of the morning when the sun's not even up yet because somebody wants to say, "Hi, would you like to vote with it?" Or blah, 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 or somebody just getting on there and going like, "Oh, blah, 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 bye." It's it's stupid. It's what it is. So hopefully this will be hopefully blocking these calls will prevent them. But let me know if you guys have had any issues like that in the past because honestly, this kind of stuff needs to stop. It does. It honestly needs to stop. Okay, one last thing. Actually, I might add a bonus one in here too, so hold on for that. But one last thing, and possibly an additional bonus. Let's talk about regional settings when it comes to cheering for your team, various sports teams. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning, um, I grew up a 49er fan, Oakland A's fan, San Francisco Giants fan, Raiders fan in a sense, Warriors fan, Chiefs, Kings fan, Sharks, of course, San Jose, and the college teams like Stanford and Cal and San Jose State, as well as Cal State Hayward, believe it or not. Because there were various times when I was a kid, and this was before the NCAA games came out by EA that allowed you to create your own schools. I remember various times I would just write on a piece of paper, especially during college bowl season, Cal State against blah 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 blah. So whatever. uh, but I used to be a fan of a lot of those teams. But as time went on, and of course, as I've mentioned many times before, I ended up moving out to Kansas. I ended up becoming a fan because I've been there. I was there for 13 years. Even though my heart still belonged on, even though I was still a diehard 49ers, A's, Giants, Bay Area related Bay Area related sports team fan. When I was out there, I ended up having a lot of respect and ended up becoming a fan of the various Midwest teams. For example, Kansas was Big 12 country, Big 8, Big 12. And I ended up having an appreciation for some of the Big 12 teams, like Kansas State, of course, Missouri, when it was part of the Big 12, Oklahoma, Texas. You get it. You get the idea. Um, and then on top of that, I also became a fan of a lot of the sports teams, like the Royals, the Chiefs, which honestly, locally, proximity-wise, were the two as close sports teams we had. And then on top of that, you had, of course, St. Louis Cardinals, and then the St. Louis Rams. So, and even the St. Louis Blues in the NHL. So, I had some sports. So there were sports teams there that even though, like I said, it was diehard, always will be, always have been, always will be a fan of the Bay Area's teams. I started to become a fan of these teams. And it was by living out there that I realized it didn't matter where you were from. It didn't matter what region you lived in. if there was a team in the same, if there were various teams in the same approximate region, you could cheer for one or the other. That's true. Or you could cheer for both. And that's what I did. You could cheer for both. Anyway, though, I come back here and I try to put that argument to the test, and my family's like, no, it's either one or the other. But I think over time, my family has learned that, yeah, if one team doesn't go from our region, we could cheer for the other. If Oakland, let's say if this year, let's say, the Giants didn't make the playoffs, but the A's did, we cheered for the A's. And the same would be going for the Niners. If the Niners didn't become the team that they are this year, and the Raiders were the team that became that team, then we would have cheered for the Raiders. So you get the idea of what I'm talking about, right? You get what I'm saying. So it would have been, we would have been cheering for one team from our region. It wouldn't have mattered which one it was. And, I think that's what I'm trying to get across to people. It's like, yeah, you can stay true to who your team is. You can stay true to being a diehard 49ers fan, which I am. You can stay true to being a diehard A's fan, which my oldest sister is. But if you have to, and there's other teams out there in the same region or same proximity that you could cheer for, then go ahead and cheer for them if you want to. But if you feel like you have to have your priorities to one team, that's fine. But if you feel that team's not going to make it, but this team is, and they're in the same region, obviously that's the team you got to cheer for. Because the one thing you want to see is success and a championship brought back to your region, no matter what the team. And that's a fact. No matter what the team, you want to see it. You want to see something brought back to your region. And that's about it. So to me, honestly, you can always stay true to who the team is, no matter what. Always stay true to your team. But I firmly believe that you could also cheer for other teams as well, as long as they're in the same region. Or if you grew up as a fan of that team and you've moved away from the location, state, region, and into another one, you can always still be a fan of that team as well, because that's where your heart is, if you know what I mean. So again, I don't think region settings should really play a factor. It should be up to you who you want to cheer for, but it should be up to you who you want to cheer for, honestly. And again, region settings shouldn't be a factor too much, what I'm trying to say. But if you realize, okay, one team's not going to go from our region, but another is, then logical would say, yeah, let's cheer for that team. But you don't have to if you don't want to, because it shouldn't it shouldn't play a role in it. But what I'm trying to get at is I've learned that if you at least have one team from your region going, and even though it may not be the team you want, then that's all should matter. That's all that should matter. Because honestly, like I said earlier, when I lived in Lawrence and St. Louis Cardinals went to the World Series, guess what? A lot of St. Louis fans were there. All of Kansas turned into St. Louis country. So, that's the truth. So, anyway, though, I just thought I'd bring that up and basically say, look, regions are not a big deal. You should be that. I mean, they're not a big deal, but it does make sense that if you feel one team's not going to go that you want your team, but you have another team that you're not too much fond of, but you have respect for, that's in the same region going, then it kind of makes sense that maybe if you want to, it's your choice, you might want to cheer for that team. Okay, so that's it for the 4 top topics, but I do have a bonus, and I wanted to talk about this real quickly, and that is Impact Wrestling. Now, we know Impact Wrestling made history by crowning Tessa Blanchard the first female world champion when she beat Sami Callihan for the title. last week's Hard to Kill pay-per-view. But on top of that, something also happened that week. Now, Alex of Just Alex's World here on YouTube and various podcasts out there, Spotify, Podbean, you name it. He talked about this, and he mentioned that a certain segment that happened on Impact happened at the pay-per-view. It didn't. The segment, and I say that with all due respect, Alex, if you're watching, it didn't though. This segment actually happened on the post Hard to Kill edition of Impact Wrestling on Access. Now, here's the thing. Impact Wrestling also broadcasts their show on Twitch. So that way, if people don't have Access TV, like they didn't have the Pursuit channel, well, they have another option, a much bigger option. Well, that option right now is not available. It's not. I'll put it this way. You know how a lot of us fear or worry that places like YouTube and Daily Motion and all of them could give us copyright strikes and take away certain functions and features and abilities and all that? Well, or even have our channel kick the can. Even if we do get it back, it's kind of gone for a time. Well, let's say Twitch kind of has a similar policy. See, Twitch is also owned by Amazon Prime, that is. And let's just say they were not too thrilled with Impact Wrestling this past week doing its post Hard to Kill edition of their show on Access TV and on their streaming service. Basically, long story short, and I'm sure you've heard about this, RVD, being the over cocky heel he is now, decided, and Impact gave him the nod because I guess this is part of his deal, to have a celebration because he beat an injured Brian Cage, who was on his way out anyway and going to AEW. And then he beat Daga, who is Tessa Blanchard's fiance. So to celebrate, RVD decides, along with Katie Forbes, his girlfriend, real-life girlfriend, and her real-life girlfriend, Jennifer, that's the name they gave her, decided they were going to celebrate in a very NFSW manner. Yeah. NFSW manner. Basically, long story short, the segments were done as a soft porn kind of situation. Yeah, soft porn. To the point that you had a nip slip. You had the women putting whipped cream on their upper torsos, if you know what I mean. To the point that the last thing we see of these various segments is RVD with both of them under the sheets, his mouth and face with whipped cream on it. And basically the fact that, all in all, they had basically a softcore porn sex celebration on Impact Television. And guess what Twitch's response was? Twitch decided, you ain't pulling this crap on us. You're out. And Twitch banned Impact. They banned them because of this segment. And they said, enough, this ain't flying with us. You're out. Now, some people have come to the defense of Impact and said, oh, well, so it's wrong for RVD and Katie Forbes and their girlfriend to have this live sex softcore porn celebration, but it's okay for someone to throw a cat across the room. They basically called out Twitch on the hypocrisy. And Twitch has yet to respond to that hypocrisy that people are calling them out on. But what Impact is trying to do, Anthem Sports said, is they're trying to work out a situation to where they can get the channel back up. And if they do, I'm guaranteeing you it's not going to be without being on probation. In other words, if they pull something similar or pull a similar stunt, they're done. The only thing I think that could save Impact and try to get the channel back on, and Anthem Sports I think knows this, is they're going to have to do an angle now. Because we know anytime a wrestling promotion does something like this, thinking they're going to get away with it, and then it comes back to bite them, check WWE's past for a good example, that they have to do something to make up for it, to kind of fix the problem. And the only thing that I think Impact and Anthem need to do is come up with an angle to where maybe RVD gets put into a straitjacket or something, taken to a psychiatrist at the behest of Twitch and Amazon and Anthem Sports, get taken to a psychiatrist, a therapist, and basically be told, look, or be diagnosed with the fact that, look, you're having flashbacks. You think you're back in ECW. This is Impact Wrestling, but this is not 1990s. This is not ECW. This is Impact Wrestling. This is 2020. Wake up. So obviously, they, something like that, they have to do that or something like it to kind of fix the situation. And I think that's the only way they're going to be able to probably get Twitch to give them like their channel, is if they agree to put an angle like that to where RVD's like spending the next few weeks on Impact in a psychiatric hospital. And it's like, I understand now. This is 2020. This is not ECW. I have to put over younger talent. They don't put me over. I put them over. So again, they have to do something, obviously, to fix the situation. And if they don't, then it obviously shows that they think I'll put it this way. If Impact and Anthem doesn't do something, because they are trying to get their Twitch channel back, but if they don't do something to rectify this, in other words, like I say, do like film an angle like that to where RVD's got to get psychiatric help, to be reminded, hey, look, dude, you're not in ECW anymore. This is not the 1990s. You're messed up. Or, hey, your girlfriends are taking advantage of you. They're making you think this. They're drugging you, whatever. If they come up with some kind of angle that helps rectify the situation, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it, honestly. So, but yeah, the RVD segment that Anthem and Impact allowed him to do didn't do them no favors. They didn't do him no favors. So hopefully they rectify the situation. Hopefully they rectify it, because you know what? Again, you look at the fact that if you try to pull something like that on YouTube or Daily Motion or Vimeo, your butt's done. Period. Your butt is done. You're pretty much out the door, kind of deal. So yeah. I mean, I understand, Impact wants to get some attention. I get that. They want to get people's eyes on their product again. I get that. But doing something like this is probably not going to do you any favors. Now, here's the thing. If they were on Access only, then okay, fine. But they forget, hey, we're not just on Access, we're also on Twitch. So they got to realize that just because you're on one platform, which is national television or semi-national television with Access TV, that you could probably get away with it there. You got to remember that you're not just on that platform, you're on another platform. That's what I was trying to think about what I was going to say next. But you also got to remember that you're on another platform as well. You're on various platforms across the board. And if they want to do something like that, then why don't they just use their Impact Plus service? I mean, come on, honestly. You have that. Why don't you use that? You don't want, and obviously that's going to be what they have to do, because they could go to YouTube and use their YouTube channel for it, which a lot of wrestling companies are doing, like NWA, Major League Wrestling, they're doing that. Or just, like I said, use the Impact Plus service. That's just as good. So anyway, though, yeah, RVD, Access TV, and Impact allowing RVD to have that segment, it didn't do him any favors. Did not do him any favors, and hopefully they can get the Twitch channel back. But I got a feeling they're going to get it back, but it's going to be on a probationary period. I really do. So anyway, though, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for today's topics on my mind, which you will also be able to hear on my various podcast channels as well when I get the opportunity. Let me know what you guys all think about some of the various topics I've talked about today. Comment down below. I'd like to hear from each and every one of you on these various topics. And I will talk to you all later. I am going to get ready for work. So peace out. God bless, and have a nice holiday. Have a nice holiday, and relax, and peace. I'm out. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for post-watching as well. And again, remember, it will be on my various podcast platforms as well. So in audio version, that is. So thank you guys for watching, and I am out.